Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code Omnipoke. For today's video, we're going to be going over the results of the Lille Regional Championships because Gdansk is hot on its tail with another European tournament happening this weekend. There's over 2,000 players in Lille, and it really had that international feel. You'll see that with the eventual top cut of just how many flags you can see here from all sorts of regions. Players deciding it was worth the trip because they could get two tournaments in one weekend of travel, essentially, within Europe. So we saw a really star-studded cast of players throughout the stream and also throughout the top tables as we progressed. First of all, let's have a look at the overall statistics and metagaming. The first time we could play Mega Evolution in Europe. And of course, we've just come off the back of Milwaukee where Absol Kangaskhan was completely dominant. However, still not going to be that prevalent in the Phase 1 representation here for overall deck choice. I think the weeks post-Milwaukee online and just from the discussion in terms of the Twitterverse was all about like how easy it is to tech against Absol Kang. I had many people asking me to root out Hooper EX, various other like Petrovants within decks so you don't lose to the Yveltal Trap, lots of like Jamming Tower coming in, lots of Guardy going to turbo builds and having Bravery Charm Drifloon. Basically, if you can find means of knocking out the Megas cleanly via weakness or damage mod or whatever else, the deck really did struggle because it seems very often that the Absol Kang presents a board state of giving up a single prize Mon, a 2-prize EX that sort of has to sit on the board, and then if you can overcome one Mega, it's a big problem. I also think that's part of the reason why you see so much Golden Go and Ceruledge. Still, even though Ceruledge had a pretty poor performance in both Bellow and Milwaukee, although there were one or two around the asymmetrical cuts, to be honest, and Golden Go actually had a worse time of things, but still both quite popular choices. I think the big deal for the Golden Gold players is that, as we'll see, there's easy tech inclusions to make the Absol Kang matchup much better, either by having some Erica's Invitation in there, very sneaky supporter to add in to force more EXs into play for you to change your prize map and ignore the Cornerstone, or just Cornerstone answers, be it Mega Lucario or Mega Mawile plus TM Turbo Energize. A few different ways people would go about it, and it does feel like it's still worthwhile having a check to Cornerstone going into the next week because Absol Kang didn't do great, but obviously it's one of those things that you're still probably got to be safe and sorry because it is still a popular archetype. At least that 5%. It feels like because Mawile is already like quite good in Golden Go anyway, I kind of like that choice. Same thing for the Erica. Like maybe it's a panic supporter you can play in other spots and still get away with games. So just a small thing there. As we know, these are the best aggressive decks in the game. I'm surprised there wasn't more Raging Bolts or Joltit Box. They were both at the 4% in the day one field. Because Raging Bolt has a field day into the Absol Kang, although I suppose there's still the threats of Gardevoir being so good. But the Joltit Box is kind of good into a lot of those. So yeah, something to be said there, especially coming off a top 4 in Bellow from a world champion. I thought it was going to have a bit more representation. But yeah, 4 of the stage 2s all sort of gobbling up that percentage point with Dragapult Dusk only down at 7%. So much Gardevoir though. It feels like it is Gardevoir versus the rest at this point where there was, I think, a combined like 20% of Guardy overall, I want to say, with the different builds. So it really is making a stand on its own for being one of the stronger decks. And also it's one of the decks that is capable at dealing with Absol Kangaskhan as well. So in terms of metagaming, there's no real threats for it, although Charizard did just win. Charizard was popular. Marnie's Grimmsnarl popular as well. These still have to be some of the bigger challenges for Guardy going forward, but there's still so many other decks in the format that Guardy can more or less be pretty safe. You can see the Jellicent build far less popular. Again, like I said, you have a much better Absol Kang matchup if you have the big damage plays, but there's also something to be said about now tool removal also being something that Drago Dusk players are back heavy on. Like it seems like immediately people have moved away from the Candy Tord build and gone back to Jamming Towers in their Drago Dusk, so something to bear in mind. And other random tool scrappers and Jamming Towers are propping up just because of this mega deck that also makes maybe the Bravery Charm stuff more risky with Guardy, but just generally just having those spaces to be more consistent than the Jelly builds is still pretty valid. Raging Bolt and Joltik, they have been popular aggro decks in the past, I feel like they're actually pretty well positioned, to be fair. Like, I know Raging Bolt is something I've hated on many times, and I still think it's weak into Guardy, which is the big drawback. But I think Joltik Box is underplayed for how strong it is right now. And then Crustle in that 3% as well, being the boogeyman, that's a dodge Guardy. You know, that's always a risk. Let's have a look at the phase 2 then of competition, where we chop down from that 2,000 down to about 350 or so players. And Guardy still doing really well, as was Dragadusk, which had a really good conversion, actually. I think we have the conversion graphics, and Dragadusk really had this phenomenal tournament, it seems like, as most of the field are not choosing to play Psyduck right now. It's basically like it was good old times with Dragadusk, so many top players still pick this deck. They try their luck into the Guardy matchup and hope to get a cheesy win. Also something to bear in mind that there were, certainly from Bellow and Milwaukee, a number of candy builds of Gardevoir. And if they're playing no Turbo Energize, if they're playing no Technical Machine Evolution, it's actually quite possible for Dragadusk to scam the Guardies early with Budu into the, like, blasting off approach. So I feel like the move towards Turbo Energize or just like Lily box candy builds does give Dragadusk some percentage back. I'm interested to look at Limitless Labs and to see how close that was, because this was definitely a weekend where I think there were a number of Guardy going like a token 1 TM evolution or sometimes none, and then like a token 1 or 2 Arven at most in lists. So it really felt like it was Budu scam was possible this weekend for the Dragadusks, which definitely helps the overall win rate. Also capitalizing on the amount of Zard here. We know it's still solid into these other archetypes. I think Grimmsnarl, one of the like weaker ones for the top 2 decks, but then Grimmsnarl is kind of pumped by some of the other stuff as well. Looking at the best of the rests, so Absol Kang didn't have that crazy conversion that it did over the last couple of tournaments. Instead, it just sort of lingered where it was. Joltik Box actually lost some percentage, and Terror Box jumped in. Terror Box, another good aggressive archetype. It feels like there's not enough space for Shaman in a lot of decks. Now, maybe there is eventually going to be this adjustment where Shaman is also somewhat disruptive against Guardy, especially if they're going Bravery Charm builds and like leaning into Screamtail more. Shaman could be justified for that reason, but it's really just in here to defend against Wellspring Mask, and I feel like a number of decks aren't committing the space right now. Like, if we're not committing space for Psyduck, for example, when Dragadusk is almost definitely going to be above 10%, why are we ever fitting the space for Shaman when Terror Box is almost always sub 5%? I don't know. One of those things where we saw a lot of Terror Box and it did do fairly well over the course of the tournament. Like, its conversion was okay, and there was at least one in ASIM that got to top 4. So Terror Box is like to be respected by some, but I still don't necessarily think any of the top decks will choose to play it. Like, maybe Grimmsnarl can fit it in, maybe Pult, but I really don't think it makes the space. I don't know, I feel like you just sort of accept that Terror Box can sometimes pop off on you, and you can try and disrupt them and make that comeback. Going back to the conversion, yeah, Grimmsnarl had a pretty decent time, as did Dragadusk as the sort of big standout performers from that day 1 to day 2. Let's have a look at the asymmetrical cut then. And for the first time, we had a bubble at 17th for ASIM, because this season, of course, there is a hard cap of 16 players for the asymmetrical cut. This is the one downside of us gaining the additional Swiss round in phase 2. So we are almost always happier with this outcome, but exactly for Drew Stevenson, your heart has to go out to him in that he had the right record and bubbled at 17th in the asymmetrical cut. I will quickly look at his deck list. It wasn't the only Gongo Lunatone, but it was an interesting one nonetheless, and we saw some cool stuff from him on the stream as well, with the Mega Morwild EX being the cornerstone answer, with the huge bites being able to deal 260, and the Gobble Down also being like a late game sweep option if you want it to. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure against Absol Kang, you see them going for the cornerstone approach, you respond with your own Turbo Energize, power up the Morwild, and suddenly they're like without a win condition, because you can literally chomp through some cornerstones, and then you have the fallback of Make It Rain into anything else they try and put into play. You have 2 Turos, so you're not going to get mugged off by any Evoltol shenanigans if you're not going crazy with your bench. And actually, Drew showed on stream exactly how you can limit that. Obviously, if you don't lead out the rocks in that situation, or if you do, you don't put the other one down and just wait to Turo one of them up, etc. So this is one of the ways you can try and deal with Cornerstone, and Mawile is just a sort of generic okay Pokemon. Maybe it gives you more license to like attach early metals around your board, so then in some late game scenarios, if you have a Make It Rain knockout already lined up, you can bench attach to Mawile if you're against a deck that can't one-hit KO. And that can give you really good like Iono-proof ways to winning, where there are these some situations where Golden Go is having to amass boss plus superior or this, that, and the other. Instead, you can just say that Gobble Down just dominates any board with just an attachment to close the game. So that's a cool thing. And I know Drew's been playing Secret Box for a while in his Golden Go. I've said for so many weeks now that I think Trolley was holding back Golden Go. And we're actually seeing that come to the forefront in Lille, which I'm really happy about. I was so certain I was right, but just because of how much good ball search you can already take advantage of. So I'm happy that both of the highest placing Golden Go were not playing the Trolley. In this case, it's Box from Drew, and then it's going to be a Prime Catcher, I think, from the other placing list from Louis here, who was playing the same list as Stefan, who had a couple other innovations. So Stefan was playing, and Louis was playing the Prime Catcher Erica's package. Well, Erica on it is like a standalone card, but the Prime Catcher is just the A spec of choice. Prime Catcher lets you do a couple of things. Early game, you can try and access early Solrock Cosmic Beam KO on like lone evolving Pokemon when your opponent may not otherwise expect it. It also gives you just generally more ways to get big Make It Rain KOs on your opponent's bench. Again, just with this huge wave of ball search, you don't have too much trouble getting into games just on the search alone. I'm surprised that both of our highest placing Golden Go were not playing any of the 50 hit point call for fam, because sometimes you can really work off of low resources if you have the one call for family and balloon your way into it and get Genesect developed. But I suppose that's more akin to just how much you lean into the rocks in the early game for this deck these days. You can see that's sort of the case with just how heavily we've gone Gong over Buddy Buddy Poffin for our ghouls. There's also the Strike It Rich Golden Go in here as well. So you have a couple ways to take knockouts. This is actually like quite good for the mirror because it's enough to knock out other Solrock and Lunatone, as is the Vit Band plus Premium Power Pro that we saw in Milwaukee. So you have a few ways to get through opponents' Lunatone Solrock whilst maintaining a one-prize board, which is pretty cool. It also is a way for you to push through a Cornerstone if you have to. Like you have a Cosmic Beam that can do up to 110 and a Strike It Rich that can hit as well. So you don't have to rely on Erica's Invitation hitting, although if it does, you instantly win Absol Kang. If you can take a Mega out in one hit, you're like basically always winning that spot. So yeah, pretty cool to see that there's enough respect here, enough answer, especially with the Super Rod, to try and make that all come together. Rod's just generically quite good in the deck as well, because you constantly want to be Ioned into fighting energy in the late game, of course. So yeah, pretty cool list. The Picnic Basket, because you're going away from Darkness Energy Monkey and your board space is more full, so having a bit of heal against like the Grimmsnarl and the other Devo shenanigans that people try and set up. Even some Guardies try and do Devo stuff. I do like that choice. The Vit Band, like I said, is really good with the Premium Power Pro shenanigans. And to be fair, with only like the 3 Vessel and the Gongs, you need to have this as an extra damage mod. You'll be surprised at just how many times the Make It Rain is fixed with the plus 10 damage in the 210 damage threshold and the 310 threshold. Really popular right now, so it's not just for Solrock pushing through stuff. It's generically quite good. I really do like this Dengo build. I think it's a very neat way to like keep everything in the list and firing on all cylinders. To be honest, I think it's a really nice approach. So shout out to Drew for missing out, and then also Louis and Stefan coming up with this cool list. I don't know if they came up with it together, but they played the same 60. I saw that from Limitless, so there we go. Let's have a look at the rest of the asymmetrical cut and just sort of do a roundup. Lots of Dragapult Dusknoir. That was kind of the story of the weekend, of just how many of them were rising to the top. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think this is also a Dragadusk. Yeah, just the Dragadusk with the 1/1 package and some more Monkey Dory action. So really like 6 Dragadusk in our asim, essentially. Really incredible stuff, and obviously 2 of them making it to the final. One thing you'll notice is that both the Gardevoirs lost in their asim, so it sort of cleared that free path for the Dragadusk to do pretty well. So that's something to be said there. Let's have a look at our winner, Alexander. getting his first regional victory. And it's a very straightforward list that you wouldn't be surprised to look at. Like, this is almost like the bog standard 60, right? There's nothing out of place in the build at all. No wasted spots on any tech inclusions. It's like just playing the deck as it lies and being powerful. You know, that's all there is to it, really. Very consistent build and got really far. So congrats. And then Alberto getting to his third regional finals, I think. Really impressive just how consistent he's been, and is also like a master of the Dragapult archetype. He too, not really wasting much space anywhere. Had a couple of the Brooks scouting, just the one Hilda in the list in this case, so it's slightly more strong openers, I suppose, is the only real trade-off. No Nest Ball in this case because you're just playing the Brocks instead. But again, just a very solid 60 from Alberto. Nothing too shocking there. Let's have a look at our other Dragadusks. Kai also has been piloting this archetype for a little while. Again, not too different. This is looking very similar to Alexander's winning list. Going on there. Henry Brand as well, making his trip over. Also playing that same sort of trademark 60. That is the same as Alexander's, I know that much. And Simon also, again, yeah. What else can you say? Everyone's sticking with similar builds. This is a slightly elevated Night Stretch account. But yeah, all good stuff from all of our Dragadusk players. Phoenix is the sort of standout one. It's a little different in that it's not playing the full package. You just sort of used one Clops to trigger your early counter catchers and just say that this is good enough to deal with monkeys. And then you have 2 monkeys of your own with Luminous as well. So leaning a bit more towards Adrenabrain helping out here. And it gives you a bit more license for space. It gives you an extra penny in the deck. It gives you the Turo and the penny. You just get a bit more space here. The second monkey being kind of important as well. But yeah, has space for pretty much everything you need, which is looking good. That's pretty much all the Dragadusk. It looks like it's not going to be going anywhere. I don't know how much changes coming into next week. Like, possibly, is there more Psyduck? Maybe. Like, is there more Absol Kang? Hard to justify because we'll see how... Like, the Golden Go has a really easy tech inclusion in 2 different avenues now that we've seen perform well. And we know it's not as good into Guard as it was for exactly Milwaukee and Bellow because so many people were on the Jelly build. I don't know, it's still... I feel like it's still just plain sailing for Dragadusk. Like, maybe there's the obvious, like, oh, there'll be more Guardy next weekend. But then we're also going to look at some powerful Dark decks as well. Looking at Piper and Gabrielle's lists. Piper playing a pretty different build of the Zoroark. A lot of the time, since the early renditions of Zoroark, Darmanitan has been dropped. But Piper said in an interview she chose to play the 2-1 line of Flame Body Cannon to help out the Guardy matchup, which is crazy to hear that like the Dark deck needs help. But with Guardy being so aggressive with its balloons and Screamtails and whatnot, she felt the need to have the Darmanitan package. Now, this does make me be a bit queasy to have just the one Reshi, but I suppose if this is prize, you can try the Darmanitan, or you can try like going Yveltal, Okidogi. Okidogi is something Aiden played in Milwaukee, and it was picked here, and we actually saw Piper on stream absolutely pounding through an Absol Kangaskhan, essentially. As soon as she got this in the mix, she had an easy way through Cornerstone. It also allowed her to KO an Absol with Mochi to get to 300, so yeah, pretty cool idea. Really fits in the deck nicely, especially with the Rod. You can like reload it if you really have to in the matchup, so very powerful stuff. This is one of the top tier decks that does play Psyduck, so that you can protect your Zoroark and make sure you're powerful raging, which is very good. Yeah, I like the build from Piper. She noted that this is a going first build, just because she plays so few good going second supporters. Like the Cyrano is more impactful on turn 2. Hilda is much more impactful on turn 2 as well, so you may as well just give yourself the best chance to trade going first, like that little bit earlier, and just say that Zoroark's really the main draw engine card. Every now and then you hire all your Poffins, Artisans, and Box or whatever, but you just rely on that sort of stuff. So, yeah, something cool about that list. Gabrielle's list's pretty different, though. Go for the Hero's Cape inclusion. does have this Terra Hooper EX. This is definitely going to try and be an answer to Kangaskhan, right? The Energy Crush. Thanks to that fighting weakness, trying to get those easy knockouts. It's also somewhat of a cornerstone answer as well. So it serves multi-purpose, I suppose. I'm not sure which is better, actually. The Hooper E-Switch stuff is kind of tempting, but Okidogi being self-powering up is also like a tempting choice that also works nicely with the Petch combo anyway. So it feels like it's less annoying than starting the Hooper. I don't know. It also has 250 hit points compared to 220. Some little things there. Gabrielle going for the Budu rather than the Cleffer. Has the Clef key in here as well for even more disruption. Not choosing to play the Psyduck at all. So maybe a bit more vulnerable into the Drago Dusk matchup. Also not having much respect at all for Golden Go. We've seen previously him going for the Toedscruel, but that's just not the case here. Or just going for a different approach and just hoping that, like, Cape big sort of thing. Does have the Watchtowers, as well as the Artisan, so a bit of disruption coming in. Also sticking with the high Cyrano count, but also the Lily coming into the deck. Just a few additional supporters to make sure you're into the game. Yeah, looking pretty good from Gabrielle. Another incredible performance. Not a problem aging up by the looks of things. Let's have a look at the rest of the top cuts. And like I said, TerraBox had a good time here with 3 different pilots on different builds as well. Alejandro getting into top 4 with a build that does have the Mega Mawile in here. So it can be a Crispin attach win condition with a 3 metal in the deck to get a late game Mawile EX. But also you got E-Switch in the deck as well, so if you've been able to float energy at some point, you can E-Switch attach for the Mawile. And actually, this is a build that doesn't play Blood Moon, which is normally like a really important late game finisher. So you do have to play this build a little bit differently in that you're sometimes taking like sob turns to set yourself up for that extra attachment to try and get E-Switch plays off with Mawile. So that's a small thing to note about this list. Choosing not to play any counter stadium to your own area 0 is somewhat of a surprise, because I do think that offers you some help against Dragapult, where they're trying to set up oftentimes a 3-prize turn into you. Choosing to play no hand disruption I think is fine overall. I think the Lily is just good enough, better than anything else you could play. The 1 stretcher 1 rod seems fine. 4, 3, 5, 6, 7. So at the 10 energy count, quite on the high side, but I think you can see why that's the case. It's a bit worrying playing the 1 Clefairy, 1 Psychic, a bit more means of prizing being a problem into Draga, but I suppose at that point you're already taking so many prizes with Pump anyway that you have access to get these from the prizes anyway quite often. I suppose with the Mawile you don't need the peak to be able to reach like 330 with like a Graph Mountain tech. But I would also think that it's possible to play the Jamming Tower in here. I feel like that's also a reasonable choice, to be fair. That's the first of 3 Terra Box. We also have Carter's list. Very different list, actually. Much more of like a hybrid with the Mega Box, in a way. Because we have the Kangaskhan and Absol. We also have Pecharunt in here, so you can runt move around your guys, which is pretty cheeky. So you don't have to worry with like the 1 balloon and the 1 Turo. You just go wide with the 0. But only 2 area 0. Again, kind of cheeky on the stadium count. Especially when freeing your crystal from jamming towers seems important. But yeah, has extra draw from Kang and has the Absol like package. So you can like start your turn, or not even start your turn. If you start anything else, you can still retreat into Kang, then petch into a Absol, which is cheeky. Or I suppose with E-Switch you can even attack with Petch late game. You're quite light on Terras, are you not? 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, you still have the 5. Because Hooper EX, I suppose, counts as a Terra. This is respect for the Absol Kang sort of like mirror match scene. As well as being, well, I suppose, given the license to play the Dark Energy. Definitely a cool list. Let's see some matches here. What was the downfall? Losing to a Zard was the only loss the whole tournament. That is crazy. And then tied a Zard as well. So Zard being the whole, I suppose. Yeah, I guess when you're not playing Leaves and you just play the 1 corner, the 1 teal, that makes sense. do you need to play the Hooper is my question. Like, can the Hooper become a second Teal or Iron Leaves? I guess the utility of Iron Leaves kind of goes away when you have Petrun in the deck anyway. I'm just trying to think that, like, if Zard's one of your only challenges, surely we can make that pretty balanced again. Tie to a Guardian, a tie to a Dragadusk. That would have been an idea, I think. So an insane run with this build. Definitely would have been catching people off guard as well, because you have the expectation of what a Terror Box entails. So when an Absol comes out and just goes Iono Claw, that's definitely going to change things up a little bit, I would say. Very, very cheeky list. A lot of cool stuff going on there from Carter. I don't know if people will have enough time to test that build themselves of Terror Box, but definitely intriguing. And then Janus here with a more traditional build. Does have a couple interesting cards, though. The Tool Scrapper over the Jamming Tower is interesting. I guess this is more of a hard tech for Guardian, just saying, I still do my Crystal live, so let me just scrap balloons and stuff like that. And it has the Briar in here as well. So you also have the surprise Briar win con. That's not always something your opponent's thinking about. Definitely not with this build. Like, most people just expect it to be Flareon that plays the Briar. Sorry, I'm just trying to have a look at all the pieces. There's just so much to look at Terror Box, but these are all the standard 1 counts. Sometimes this Briar is like INO, sometimes it's extra Crispin, sometimes it's a Stadium. The Countercatcher is something you don't always see either anymore. That was popular in early renditions, but that's sort of fallen out of vogue. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is the standard count of energy as well. I really do like double Teal right now. There's a lot of grass weak stuff. The losses came to a Terror Box, a Guardi, which is always... Like, Guardi's quite a close one, I would say. And Dragadusk. Yeah, that all makes sense. Nice stuff. Terror Box, yeah, I mean, with so many of them in cut, maybe I was disrespecting the Shaman earlier and saying it could be back in a big way. The other Owl builds that made the ASIN was Thomas. Also a pretty interesting build, also incorporating the 1 Dark Energy Hooper. Also has a Luminous and a Crystal. Don't forget this is a Terramon, so you can Crystal it and still get Energy Crush going. It's just got the 2/2/1 package of Flareon. Has the 101 Pidge that you'd expect. Has Black Belt's Training in here. Similar to Emma's build, I think. Yeah, Trumpet E-Switch as one-ofs as well. Yeah, looking like Emma's updated build, if I had to guess. Outside of the Owl decks, we had a Zard, and then a couple Guardies. Is that all? Yeah, just got to look at Zard and a couple Guardies. All right. Let's look at Hermione's Zard build. Very similar to Jackson's list, if not the exact same. A lot of strong elements with this build, though. I do want to point out that they faced a lot of Guardi. I know that much. But they did face... Well, they tied a Dusk. Yeah, they faced a good amount of Dragapult as well. I was just seeing their run. But, yeah, Zard's still powerful, isn't it? Let's be fair. Nothing wrong with Zard. And Jackson brought such a good list that people can just take that and do well. It was actually the Jelly Guardies that did best in Lille. For all of me saying that it was lots of Bravery Charm Guardies, and there were lots like towards the top 32. A lot of them were on Winnings as well, from my memory. But it was 2 of the Jelly builds that ended up going the furthest. Kim here with a bit of a hybrid, because it still has the 2 Bravery Charm. This is looking like Ian Robb's build, I think, if I had to pick from anywhere. Or did Ian play a different supporter line altogether? I can't remember now, actually. I do like the hybrid, though. I think still keeping 2 Arv and 1 Evo is just like the right thing to do. Even if you're playing Turbo Guardi, honestly. It feels like the biggest difference with Jelly Guardi and regular is that you don't play the Mystery Garden stuff. The other build we have from Julio here is a build with Evo and Devo. So still keeping that option alive with the Jelly. And again, the 1 Arven, 1 Evo, 1 box, that really is skimpy, but it still gives you some play into And there was also the Mega in this build as well, so I'm surprised the Jelly build still had space for a Mega. It's a little bit light on the consistency stuff, but doing pretty good overall. Let's have a look at the stuff outside the ASIM. There was a Crustle in top 32. Let's look at Alex's list here. Nothing too untoward. Let's see the matches. Was it simply that they didn't hit any Guardy? Yep, they hit one Guardy. If you only hit one Guardy, you're going to have a decent day. Looks like some of the more skilled Dragadusk are a problem, though. You can be hit by the Dustamars. They can hit you. They can punch. And to be fair, a lot of the Dustamars are now playing the high counts of Jamming Tower. So that, again, was like in debate when there were candy builds floating around, but it feels like almost everyone's on a couple Jamming Tower and Dragadusk at the moment. There was a 32 Absol Kang from my teammate Benji with a updated build where you've cut the Cornerstone, which is definitely the right thing to do, right? Because you know that instantly people just put in Cornerstone checks and then you have no win con. So instead having the double Airy, there's a Rosic and the Devo in the deck gives you some play into these matchups that you otherwise wouldn't. Like that Golden Go, and just more generically, Devo is just good into other stuff. It's good into Candy Guardies, right? If you're going to see them candying up and being aggressive into you, you can try and do some sneaky Devo shenanigans. Buy some time. Does have the E-Hammer as well. Somewhat Mirror, somewhat for Zard that plays Mist as well. Obviously searchable via the Arven. So still looking like a really good build. I imagine Benji's is close towards most up-to-date build as well, just from discussion with him. So there we go. We have a Grim in top 32. So it had a decent conversion, but ultimately not finishing all that high. The Chorus Mist Energy tech inclusion, the respect for Absol. Has it really come to this? It feels so rough. I mean, I know your stadiums are some of the best cards in the deck, but really choosing a Chorus and a Mist over an Iono or a Lily, that feels like a stretch. That really feels like a stretch. The things we do to respect Absol Kang, eh? But maybe it's a low enough % deck that you just buy those spaces back and don't care. Oh, let me see if they beat any Absol Kang. I guess that's important. They faced none anyway. They hit none. Oh, forget it. Oh, what a joke. Not worth it. What else have we got towards the top? Sander played Frostlass Monkey Dory, so he's taking prize cards against his will in the format. Still being annoying, though. Does have the Tinglu, so still some lock elements. Has the Neutralization Zone and some Crushing Hammer in here as well. So he's still been annoying enough in the best way possible. Luminous and Prism. Why both? Why one of each? Oh, so you can attack with Frostlass if you have to. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Pretty cheeky. What else we got here? There was a top 64 Joltik Golden Go. It plays the 1/1 line of Steelix. Let's have a read. If you have exactly 3 prize cards remaining, it does 200 more damage. That's a lot of damage. What a beast. If you have exactly 6 remaining, you do 240. Okay. Is the fighting typing relevant on this? No. Really? Steelix. I mean, you can power it up in Skull Bash as well. If you want a 1 prize guy to be huge and annoying. It's playing 2 of the slap gimmies as well, the new Gimme Ghoul. Slap it up. Over minor errand running. I guess you don't want to errand run too much in this deck. Sorry, I've just been stun-locked by Steelix. I was not expecting to see him here. Also, the Rocket's Petrol overplaying Brock. I think Brock is so good in this deck. We saw Brock doing well in Diego's list. It's a trolley build as well, so trolley over Prime. This is a very, very different list to what I'm used to seeing. Because normally you see like Max Nest Ball. I guess with Trolley it makes sense to play double Genesect. Do you even play Miraidon if you're at Trolley? You have it just as a... No, that doesn't even work. Oh yeah, you have the Miraidon in case you prize Trolley, and you can go Arven, Nestball, Balloon. Huh. But you basically never go for it in this deck. Unless you start it, I suppose. I need to think more of exactly why Steelix is here. Because what I'm thinking is like, oh, it's an annoying guy into some like other multi-prize matchups, maybe. Where you just go one prize gimme ghoul board and Joltik powers up Steelix, because Joltik powering up hands makes no sense. But surely Joltik powering up Pika is still good in that instance. If you split between Pika and Miraidon in that instance, can you still catch up? I guess not against Bolt. It's the Bolt respect / Cornerstone respect / I don't know. That's crazy though. Has the space for Tool Scrapper as well. Oh, is it Cornerstone? Sorry, is it Crustal Answer? 140 is still not enough. Maybe not. But it is massive. I'm still confused. Alessandro Bax was one of the top control players on the day. What was his eventual losses? Lost to Golden Go and lost to Guardy Jellicent and a Dragadusk. But there's all sorts going on here. Has the Golduck, so Charizard's and other decks can't tech the Klefki and still explode. That's kind of cool. It's also just more hit points, so you don't have to play the Mist if you just play Big Duck. You've got the trapping stuff, you've got the Elgium, you've got Ting-Lu locking stuff out, you got Milotic stopping the pickup effects, you got all sorts going on. Kangas can't take the wheel. Draw me cards, draw me into something that's useful. It's a trolley build, so you can get him going pretty quickly with Skyliner. Yeah, I mean, definitely an annoying deck. Definitely don't want to play against this. A lot to think about. And they have all sorts of avenues to be a huge pain in the neck. What else is doing well? There was a Roaring Moon in top 64 as well. Just an aggressive Turbo Moon. Did have the E-Hammer, so you can get around Mist and still gouge. Pretty crazy. A Sableye here as well. Can deal 90, I think, if it's statused. Yeah, 90. But yeah, just a Turbo Moon. Every deck chooses second against you, right? So you get to try and donk. There was a top 64 Alakazam deck as well, with 2 enhanced hammers, so you can still get through Mist Energy as well. Kind of cheeky. Getting in there with the big hand. There was a top 64 Lucario Hariyama. Admittedly, they faced one Guardy and lost it. It really is a cursed matchup. One of my friends was playing this as well, and it really is just the roulette. It's such a powerful deck in what you can do outside of the Guardy matchup, where you really are just like embarrassed and hoping for weak starts. The Secret Box is interesting though. I don't know how much I love Secret Box versus Trolley, actually. I think Trolley in this deck is really good. If you go second, go Arven, Trolley, Balloon, you almost always get Solrock attack, and you get to go Riolu, Maku, Maku, one of each rock, and your board is just so good there. Or you can Trolley and get the early bundle, so you can get the early bundle Solrock hit. I definitely think that just going Arven for tools and going Trolley is my preferred way of playing Lucario. I like a lot of things here, though. I like the high Turo count because it allows you to beat the lock stuff whilst also just picking up and putting down Heave Hose. So they're basically bosses, but better because they can heal Lucario and play around stall. EXP share is kind of smart as well. I do like that choice. So you're not locked into an Aura Jab into some matchups. And like against aggro, you can go Mega Brave into Mega Brave if you EXP share the bench. Although I suppose Bolt can play the jamming tower anyway. And some decks are just playing Scrapper now anyway as well. There's some stuff I definitely like here. The one nest, you don't even have to play the one nest, do you? One nest just feels so bad when you're already playing Artisan anyway. The nest has to be worse than nest and Mega Signal. I guess you play Mega Signal because you discard so much from your box. But I feel like these are spaces, honestly. Maybe I'm stubborn because I've been playing some Lucario just for ladder fun. There was also a top 64 Raging Bolt. Let's see if there's anything new here. Plays the E-Hammer. What? What we E-Hammering? That's pretty wild. Just had space. Doesn't play the leaves, just has the one prime, the one terror. E-Hammer, just to grief stuff. Just to take a knockout and grief energy somewhere else. Maybe it's for Legacy in Ceruledge. Come on. Speaking of which, there was one in top 64, so big representation, but a few weekends of essentially not having a great time. Now Mist coming into Ceruledge. Wow. Did not expect that. Can be good for disrupting Dragapult game plans as well as the Absol, I suppose. The sneaky one-of jamming tower is about all you can fit. One of the 80 hit point cadets. I don't know where I stand on this. I feel like almost all should be 80. I've been back and forth, but I think I'm now a team 80 HP. There was also a Magneton Miraidon Hands, which is pretty cool with the one Zekrom. Does have the Defiance in here as well. Can get pretty cheeky with that. Has just one of the 70 hit point magnets, but still has Magnetic Charge as an attacking play for just getting powered up if you want. It is a decent attack, to be fair. You just pick the right one for the right spot. High research, high boss. Still a couple Arven in here. The one counter gain, very cheeky. Two counter catchers. Definitely very high on that gust, which I suppose you have to be with a deck like that. It does gain a few cards, but it is vulnerable. Like, let's see the losses, actually. Loss to Flareon, that makes sense. Another... Okay, lost to two Flareons. Lost to a Gardy. Tied a Chomp. Those are some tough matchups, actually. For a deck like that. I guess you dodged the stall stuff, though. And you would just completely fold to that. What else we got? We got Amy, colleague of mine, playing Conk. Pretty cool stuff. Gaining the Premium Power Pro. You don't have space for the full suite, but it still allows you to gutsy swing over into the stage 2s a little bit easier than before, which is pretty sweet, actually. So you have a lot of mods here. There's Perilous, there's Grav, there's double Prem Power, which previously was like Kieran, which like really sucked. So generally the deck did get stronger. Now Amy had a hilarious day because she faced 3 Crustal and 2 Mirror. So she definitely had a meme of a day. Only hit 1 Guardy, hit no Dragapult. So still take Conk with a pinch of salt, but still congrats on the score because, yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think a few people had some good runs of Conk, actually. There was also, in top 128, the Danklin deck with the Blood Moon Ursaluna. You try and go Calamitous Mountain to set up Monkey Dory so you can monkey buff either Soul Rock damage or get yourself into Baby Blood Moon range is the idea. Putting this Blood Moon down into play with a mountain also like self-damages it to then instantly Mind Bend stuff. Kind of cool idea. Get a few things going here. And then you like work towards Blood Moon late game. And you again have like Blood Moon being modded to at least 260 a lot of the time. And you have some other treats. Definitely a cool deck, cool idea. You got Crispin Acceleration to help out, get the monkeys in the mix. Some definite shenanigans afoot, and it's a one prize pain in the neck to deal with. But yeah, that's more or less Lille. I think oh, okay, fine. I've seen a Hydreigon, fine. Yeah, this is the more recent turbo build that's popped up where you use Terras to try and dual seek towards your combo here. Where you try and dual seek towards like E-Switch, Hilda, get the Neo going, and just get smacking. Definitely a cool deck. Definitely scary to play against Obsidian. The losses, Draga, you'd expect. Zard, yeah, another Draga. So yeah, weakened to Draga Dusk, so that's probably an issue, I would say. But there you go. That's where we're going to leave it. I think my takeaways, I like how Golden Go's adapted. I'm very happy that Trolley's out of that deck. I thought it was trash all along. I'm surprised that the highest placing Guardies were Jellies, because it seemed like the general player base is tilting the other direction. But one thing I would say is still play your TM evolutions, because we've just seen Draga Dusk have a field day. Oh, I was actually going to look at that, wasn't I? I was going to look at Draga Dusk's matchup into Guardi. 41. See, I mean, I understand how it's still close, but God, I feel like that's one of the higher ones it's been for a while, because people are just off TM evolution. I feel like Guardies have to be on TM Evo. Zoro, definitely like a scary deck. I think people will be taking Zoro because it has some pretty solid lines into the top stuff. Definitely into the other stage 2s. I think sacking Dengo is scary. I think Ceruledge is like kind of not real. Probably going to be dropping down in popularity. I still really like Joltit Box and the Dengo hands as well. I think those are both pretty strong. And Terra Box, there's this question mark of like, do we actually commit to the Shaman, or do we keep letting them get away with this? I don't know. I think it's a tough one. Zard looking like a tough tournament. Yeah, those are really my takeaways. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm playing in Gdansk, so I have a massive headache over what to play. In the build-up to Lille, because I was casting, I was putting loads of time into Absol Kangaskhan, just so I could commentate nicely over the deck, and then never commentated it. But now I'm worried about its placements. Now, its matchups are still really good into the top decks, but you're far scarier into Dengo than you were before, I would say. That's definitely a concern. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.